I have a confession to make. I have trust issue with Autopilot. Hi, I'm Joy. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I document my Tesla Model 3 owner experience for new and future owners to learn more about this car. If you find this video helpful and informative, please consider subscribing. Last month, I did a video reviewing my 1-year ownership of the Model 3. In that video, I mainly focused on the features my Model 3 had when I took delivery versus all the enhancements that this car has received a year later. But as I continue to reflect on this last year's ownership, I realized that I still have a little bit of trust issue with Autopilot. I start thinking more about it. Is it my fault that I don't trust the Autopilot? Or is it Tesla's fault that Autopilot isn't performing at the level where I can fully trust it? And the answer is yes and no, and both, really. And there are other factors that I've discovered along my journey. First, I want to talk about the regular Autopilot that includes TACC or Traffic Aware Cruise Control combined with lane keeping and auto steering technology. This is the Autopilot feature that I use, I would say 98% of the time. And I use it pretty much every single day during my commute and whenever I am driving on the freeway. This technology is amazing and I absolutely love it. However, I found out that there are still times when I don't trust it fully and I still get a little bit nervous when I'm using Autopilot on the freeway. And the reasons being, number one, it can't really detect debris on the road just yet. It's his first time using Autopilot. Feels weird.
Oh, is it gonna see that thing in the road?
What thing? Obstacle? It doesn't actually. That's why when that happens, you need to take it off. So you really need to pay full attention while you're still driving it. And I know that I am guilty of this, that whenever the Autopilot is turned on, my mind would wander a little bit and my eyes would go more into the sightseeing mode, which is not good. And sometimes when there are obstacles on the road, you may miss it or it will come up really fast that you're not aware of. So I have to continue to pay full attention while using Autopilot just to make sure that I'm not missing out on maybe a bumper that fell out in the middle of the road and that has not been cleared yet and that the car is going to hit it and cause damages and accidents. And number two, I don't know in other areas, but here in Los Angeles, when I'm driving in the HOV lane, a lot of times the lanes are really, really tight. The space that I'm driving on in the HOV lane many years ago, like a decade or so ago, that used to be the shoulder of the road. But because of the volume of cars and the traffic that LA area has been receiving, they removed the shoulder and turned those shoulders into a lane. So the left lane marking is literally right next to the center divider. It has very, very narrow gap between the concrete and the lane marking. So a lot of times in Autopilot with auto steer and lane keeping, the car is dangerously close to the center divider, which makes me really nervous. I don't know if this is Tesla's problem. I want to say that it is something that they should adjust because a lot of times when I'm driving in the HOV lane and sometimes going through an overpass, there's a little column that sticks out a little bit. I could see on the screen that the sensor is showing red, meaning that I'm getting really, really close to that object where I might hit it. And when the traffic is more free flowing and you're going in a higher speed and there's a slight turn, that gets really hairy because a lot of times I feel like the car will hit or swipe that concrete divider and cause damage. If you combine number 1 and number 2, where there might be debris that are kind of on that side of the road in that very narrow gap, but it's still sticking out a little bit, and Autopilot doesn't detect that, and it's just going straight. And I have encountered that many times where I'm like, whoa, there's something coming up, and I had to take control and swerve my car around that object so that I don't hit it or drive over it like a cardboard, and that it flies up and hits the car behind me or next to me. So that's pretty dangerous. And number 3, this actually is the fault of the LADOT, Department of Transportation, because a lot of times the markings are just not there. They need to repaint the roads and make sure all the lane markings are clear enough for the cameras to see. There have been a lot of times where the markings may be missing or the painting of the lane is fading, and you can literally see the lane on the screen that just kind of wiggles like that because it's trying to figure out, whoa, is there still a lane? How do I keep this lane? And you can feel the car start going this because it's trying to center itself in between the lanes. So during those times, I would have to be extra cautious and sometimes taking control of my car so that people don't think that I am crazy. So this is another reason why I can't trust Autopilot fully just yet. Number 4, sometimes I wish that the cameras and the sensor would act a little bit more humanly when it's detecting the traffic flow in front of you. While I keep a safe distance using Autopilot, as humans, when we are seeing that the traffic in front of us, way ahead of us, is stopping, the reflex, at least my reflex, is, okay, time to slow down and perhaps press on that brake a little bit. But a lot of times this car just going full speed, and then it will start slowing down. That is my part of the trust issue, my fault, that I'm not trusting that even though I set that 5 or 7 time interval distance, that the car would really start to slow down. So a lot of times I am still nervous about it, and that is a lesson that I'm continuing to learn and train my mind to trust the Autopilot more and the sensor a little bit more. But I really do hope that somehow the sensor will act as human eyes and the neural net would really become like a human brain where it sees that traffic stopping in front of you, it would just start to slow down accordingly instead of waiting until the last 5 seconds or 8 seconds, however many time intervals, to really start slowing down. And next, let's talk about Navigate on Autopilot. If you have seen my previous videos testing out the Navigate on Autopilot in LA rush hour traffic, you will know that this feature is not very practical here in LA area. I do try to use it as much as I can, but my success rate has not been all that great because I find that a lot of times it would try to exit the freeway a little bit too late where I'm not able to get through that flow of traffic on the right-hand side. And it has caused me to miss my exits before, and the car got really confused. I had to take it off manual mode, get off on the next exit, and turn back around. So I hope Tesla will continue to improve on Navigator Autopilot and better sense the flow of traffic so that instead of exiting like a mile prior, if the traffic is really heavy, try to start exiting 3 miles before the actual exit. Don't get me wrong, Autopilot is still amazing and so much safer than me, a human being, operating this vehicle where I could cause error that result in accident. I do trust this technology most of the time. And this was actually a real lifesaver for me this past week, where I had an ophthalmologist appointment and they dilated my eyes without telling me before I went to the appointment. After my appointment, I had to drive home, which is about 10 miles away. If you've ever had your eyes dilated, you would know that your eyes will be extra sensitive to bright lights and your vision would get blurry. What I decided to do on the way home was I wanted to minimize my interaction with the car as much as possible. Instead of going through the navigation suggestion, which avoided hopping on the freeway, which would take 10 minutes longer to get home, I hop on the freeway. Because once I got on the freeway, I turned on autopilot and just let the car drive itself in complete stop and go traffic. This took a lot of stress off of me because I knew I had to be extra careful, being that my vision was blurred. I could still see, but you really want your vision to be sharp, scanning through your environment while you're on the road. So I very carefully drove onto the freeway, turned on autopilot, and just let the car go. Yes, it took me extra 10 minutes to get home, but I feel so much safer. I was really thankful for this technology. So that's my review of using autopilot for the last 13 months. Now I think it's clear that my trust issue isn't just one-sided. It's not just me not trusting the technology, but it's also the technology needs to mature a little bit more, as well as the public infrastructure playing a part, making sure all the lane markings are done correctly for the sensors and the cameras to detect as well. So it's all of these factors combined that resulted in my trust issue with autopilot still. I hope you found this video helpful in helping you to decide whether or not you should include this autopilot feature if you're still debating on that. And if you do have autopilot, what do you think? How do you like it? Do you trust it completely, or do you still have that little bit of doubt like I do? Make a comment down below. And once again, if you find this video helpful and informative, don't forget to subscribe down there, give this a like, ask me questions down below in the comment. I love to interact and answer your questions. Until next time, have a blessed week.